Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Donna Kapmeyer, and I am the CEO and firm owner of Action Coach of Coastal Bend and Capital Game Plan Consulting in South Texas, and I will be your host for today. I'm very excited to have our special guest, Leva, on our show. Is the president of Propel Financial Services. Today, we're going to talk with him about his journey to get to where he's at and the challenges and successes of scaling and operating a business. If this is your first time on our channel, please be sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when we publish awesome new content. Well, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Donna.
Fantastic. Well, let's start off by having you take a moment to share a little bit about your business and how your journey began.
Donna, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and tell my story and hopefully impart a little bit of wisdom to your listeners. I since we've been talking, I actually did start listening to the show, and it's a really great show, and I love that you're showcasing local talent, and we can all uplift ourselves with our stories. So thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you for the feedback.
So, I'll start backwards instead of telling you what we do. If I tell you how I got here, what if I told you a story about um, a skinny kid who grew up in Mississippi, small town of 1,200 people, a child of immigrants, working really hard, um, graduated high school at age 16, thought I was going to be a physician, studied engineering, and stumbled on business in the business world, worked and mastered multiple industries and startup and large enterprise space, have been to 52 countries, done business in 30, and done, I don't know, $15 billion, 14, $15 billion worth of business in my lifetime. That's kind of how I got here, right? I love learning. I love people. I love growing an enterprise. Um, I, and through this journey, I've really made some mistakes, a lot of lessons. One of the big things for me is um, through some of the experiences, realize what I'm good at, what's my sweet spot, and what isn't. And let me just stay true to who I am and what I'm good at, right? So that's how I got here.
That is incredible. I don't know that a lot of people can say that. You're a very young individual, and to travel that much and to have that much influx of money, that's amazing.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, and I still have yet a few more mountains to summit. So what we do here at Propel, Propel is one of the largest property tax lenders in the state of Texas. If people are not able to pay their property taxes or choose not to, we're a really fair, customer first driven solution for the property owners. So in the state of Texas, as you know, if you are delinquent in your property taxes in year one, the county imposed late fees and penalties are to the order of 46%. So
Mm.
to stop that penalty clock, we come in and help folks that need support and need help, and just a little lifeline. And they use us for a few years, and then they come off of our facility. So we have a lot of pride in keeping Texas property owners in their properties, whether it's commercial or residential, and that's part of what we do, and it aligns well with our core values and just helping um, being true to ourselves, doing ethical business, and giving back to the community.
Love that. Love that. A well-needed service for sure. In that support, what do you find as some of your biggest challenges in what you face in doing this kind of business today?
Yeah, so our business it is fast paced, right? So if you think about a mortgage company, they might take in today's economic environment 3 months, 2 to 4 months to do a loan. Ours, we can get a phone call tonight and close as quickly as the next day. So it's making rapid credit and underwriting decisions, And because these people are realized that they have a problem, they might lose their home or their property, and they need to stop the penalty clock. So for us, some of the things that are really important is leveraging technology. And again, that's where my engineering background comes into play, and marrying the technology with decision science and data analytics, with finance, right? To find creative, innovative funding solutions um, that meet the SLA and the requirements of our borrowers.
Very good, very good. When you think of, where you're at today and where you were, and kind of that journey, I'm going to step back a little bit. What kind of mistakes did you make along the way to get to where you're at?
Yeah, I was really blessed earlier in my career with some amazing leaders and coaches and mentors. And I probably didn't appreciate them until many years later, number one. Number two, when we think about just the employee experience, most people don't leave their company, they leave their managers.
Hmm.
And I've had my share of, managers that were, let's not use negative words, but just weren't inspirational and didn't really inspire me to be better and do more, right? It coupled that with the fact that folks use the word culture and core values a lot these days, and I know I do almost in every other conversation as a leader of the organization. I didn't have an appreciation for that in the past until I was in some environments that were not as nurturing or as employee friendly, employee first, and more about the bottom line. And we can churn and burn our employees. So through some mistakes, I have learned to really understand what type of organization, what parts of our journey require a different skill set. So, for example, a little over a year ago, we bought a company, did some roll up strategy with a competitor. And one of the mistakes I made there was, and I own it, right, is that I probably should have staffed some of the departments. And we actually had the first 3 months while we were doing integration, while we were growing the industry, growing our business year over year, we had some burnout, and that's on me, right? That's on me, and it's one that I won't have again. I'll make sure that being really intentional with change management, being intentional with when you're acquiring a company or acquiring portfolios, that we have extra capacity, whether we build that in internally or we're
Hmm.
hiring that for just to kind of flex up and down as we need it. We'll spend that money because our employees are our biggest value and our biggest resource. And how do we keep them engaged and we activate them so that we get as much out of them and they get as much out of the experience of being with us.
Love that. It took you having to see I guess, I always say the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It took you having to see what the other side looked like to say, wow, this is not what I want.
That's
And
right.
the importance.
Donna always say, people always say grass is greener on the other side, but you have to mow it, you have to aerate it, you have to weed it, you have to water it, and versus that little dirt on my side under my feet might be really pretty.
I hear you. I hear you. That's a great way to put that. I appreciate that. So let's stay on the line with what you do want. When you think about success, who comes to mind and why?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and when you think a little more about just your career holistically, and um, part of me earlier in my career had an opportunity to work with. I worked for a company that had more than 100,000 employees, and was fortunate to present to the board. And I started out by saying I never have felt like I'm working, and I'm pinching myself because you're paying me to do what I do. And on Sunday nights, like, I'm so excited. I can't sleep because I'm going to work the next day, right? You're paying me to do this. Um, and I still have that level of passion and enthusiasm with whatever I do. And sure, some days are a little more tough and curveballs are thrown at you, but you know, holding true to that is really important. Thinking about success, I've read and studied through MBA and just self-studied a lot of leaders, and the one that really comes to mind is the former PepsiCo CEO, Indria Nooyi. For her, she always put culture and her company into sustained growth before the bottom line, right? And building those train tracks ahead of the train going forward so that the train stayed on the train tracks and in the right trajectory, and investing in the right talent, making sure that the core values are tight and everybody's aligned with those core values and the culture.
Beautiful. It's so important. So important. You said, they're the employees are your number one asset, and they're the ones who are really driving the machine at the end of the day. And if you keep them happy, you're going to reap the
And engaged,
rewards.
right? So Donna,
Hmm.
the I always tell my our I call them propellers, right? Our propel our amazing propel staff, and we have people who have been here more than 10 years, right?
Nice.
So many people that have been here more than 10 years. Any of the people in our company can go down the road and make a little more money at a much more buttoned up financial institution. But every morning they'd be selling their soul, right? And feeling like they're selling out. Whereas here, you don't have to get along. You don't have to agree with each other. But by golly, we love and we care about each other, right? When one of us is down, we'll pull each other up. And that part of culture, that part of feeling connected to the organization and where we're heading and what we're doing is powerful. And you cannot at the top of the shop, I can't send an email that says you're going to care for each other, you're going to love each other, you're going to support each other.
Darn it.
That
Yeah.
email will be sent back with an emoji that I might not like.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that sounds like that's one thing that sets your organization apart from others. What else sets you apart from competitors or others that are in your industry?
Yeah, and it's no surprise, right? We're the largest in terms of employees and loans and market share, or depending on how you slice and dice it, the largest or the second largest. To me, it really doesn't matter. But for us, what sets us apart is that we look at every facet of the value chain, and we really don't look at the rest of the industry. And we don't need to do a victory lap if we're having a good month. And similarly, if we're having a bad month, we're not crying, right? We just make sure that we are high touch with our clients, client first, right? How can we build a company that our company's been around for in different instantiations for more than 16 years, right? So how can we build a company that is set in our core values, that we do good, honest business for the next 16 or 25 or 50 years, right? Um, we are technology first, technology driven. We want to make sure that we have high touch customer experience. So whether the customer wants to engage with us with text, that's okay. Whether it's email, that's okay. Whether it's snail mail, that's okay. Whether it's our online website, that's okay. Whether it's a phone call, that's okay. So we have multiple ways that our customers can engage with us. And it's really what makes sense for them, right? One size doesn't fit all, and we're not going to force them into communicating in a way and engaging with us in a way that they're not comfortable with. Our industry is heavily regulated, right, by the OCCC, and we are part of the TPTLA, which is a small group of competitors that self-regulate ourselves and making sure that we understand what's happening in legislation and making sure that we are abiding with the regulations that our industry has to abide by. So that part is good, right? You want to do good, wholesome, solid business.
Very good. Very good. If you could do it all over again,
Oh
what
gosh.
what would you do differently, or would you do anything differently?
Donna, that is a dangerous question because Stephen Hawkins, not Hopkins, Stephen Hawkins, said that just beautiful line, the arrow of time and only goes in one direction, right?
Right.
Can you do it? What would I do again differently? I think um, understanding what are my blind sides, right? We all have a blind side,
Mhm.
acknowledging them a little more proactively instead of areas, like I said, when we did some M&A and we had a little bit of burnout, right? Investing in those areas in advance of that M&A transpiring. Other parts of this, of course, would be formalizing customer advisory council, getting early feedback and making sure across all of our businesses, right? Not just our core business, other businesses that we're in as well, and having whether bi-monthly summits where we understand um, where are we competitive, not competitive, where do we need to prioritize a roadmap, where do we need to prioritize, reprioritize, and be iterative about our roadmap and our innovation.
Mhm.
Um, I think that would have been it's something we're doing informally, but it's something clearly day one I probably should have really put my foot down and said, this is a mandate. And we're evolving into that space, evolving into the formality of that. But it's happening organically, but happening inorganically, but slowly versus being
Mhm.
intentional and saying, I'm doing this day one.
Nice. Very nice. Is there anything else that you would like your audience, because hopefully some of your audience is going to see this as well as our audience. Is there anything that you would like to share or have them know more about you in a
Donna,
particular area?
Donna, sure. I've been in the business world for a minute now. I think next year, this year or next year will be 30 years of being in the business world. And at the 21-year mark, I actually wrote a little blog on LinkedIn that said, cheers to my 21 years of my career, right? And there are elements of it that I wish that 21 years before someone had slapped me on the face, figuratively, not literally, and said, hey, here's, here's something that is going to help you. Because I would have not stumbled as much, right? And a lot of it was trial and error and trying to figure it out. A lot of this, and we touched on a few of these things, Donna, being passionate about what you do, right?
Mhm.
I've always felt that I'm the exception, not the rule. So, early in my career when I was in the technical world, it's like, hey, hi, that next promotion is going to take 5 years. That's what the guideline is. No, 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 I'm going to do it in 2.5, 3 years. And I did it, right?
I love that.
And annoyed a few people in the process, but that's okay. Um, you know, at one point before I started my MBA, I wrote an essay that said, "Hey, here's what I want to do in my career in 5 years or 10 years," and I looked at that essay again, and actually, to the year, actually that realized, and I wasn't smart enough to be intentional in putting a roadmap and some milestones. Even if the milestones are going to change, and even if the timeline will change, it just worked out, right? I got lucky, right? It was not that I was smart, not that I was intentional, not that I was planning. I just got lucky. Many years ago, I wanted to, start joining some boards and um, was intentional and have joined multiple boards now from a bank and some startups and all that. That's been really, to me, rewarding on a few fronts, right? I get to learn about business in a completely different industry, a different scale, different organization, different set of regulations. And I just love learning, as you can tell, right? I'm passionate
Yeah.
about just geeking out. Earlier this year, I've been just learning a lot about on my weekends and nights AI, right? And building my own GPTs and all of that. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to be a dinosaur. So learning about a new industry, taking what I already have in my experiences and what I'm doing in my day job, applying that quickly and symbiotically what I'm learning and picking up there and making myself in my day hustle a lot more effective and and just kind of doing hopefully value adding incremental value in both both domains. That's been really great, right? Other part of me that I just absolutely love, and my to me, it's not about the stuff that I started about my journey that is success. To me, success is, how many people have I've been able to mentor, coach, develop. There are people who, when I worked in Propel back in 14, 15, 16, in a different capacity, um, people from my stable, right? Horses from my stable are out in the rest of the industry and thriving in their leaders, right? So to me, that is my biggest legacy, not about my bank balance or my resume. It's the people that I've been able to one-on-one touch, develop, coach, learn from, hopefully challenge them. I always say I start a lot of meetings with be comfortable being uncomfortable. And a new one that has morphed, Donna, is used to be you only make diamonds with pressure. Well, I've kind of remorphed that to with pressure, you have um, pipes burst or you make diamonds. So you have a choice, right? Do you want to burst the pipes or do you want to make diamonds? So that's some of what I would really want to leave the audience with. Be authentic to yourself. Seek out coaches and mentors in your organization. Don't do what I did. Don't just be floating in your career and take opportunities and make not just the best out of it. I got lucky, right? Working for great people and great organizations and being really connected to what we're doing. But I just got lucky. I wasn't intentional in seeking that. Um, yeah,
I think you ought to give yourself a little bit more credit than just being lucky.
I think I got lucky. I think I got lucky. I think I got lucky with um, especially the team I work with right now, the leadership team. I just love my team to shreds, and um, we have something really special. And it might be one of those opportunities of a lifetime I might never get to um, do again. Right,
But you're experiencing it now, which is phenomenal.
living the moment,
You
living the
are.
dream.
How can our viewers and listeners connect with you and learn more about your business?
Absolutely, just LinkedIn is great, right? I'd love if you put it in the show notes. Reach
Hmm.
out to me if I can help you. If anybody in my network can help you, let me know. I mean, I'm at my undergrad and grad school, my both alma maters. I'm almost always coaching and mentoring a few um, students or alum. That's just a big part of who I am because it's not lost on me that my parents left India, right? Our little village in India, moved to the UK. I was born in the UK. If they didn't move from our little village in India, I would be that kid in India without the opportunities that I'm afforded in this country for education, for growth, to give back, and it's clearly not lost on me. And so, to me, one of the biggest things that I can do is just give back and in any capacity.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Do you have any questions for me or any questions about Action Coach?
I do, Action Coach has really piqued my interest. So, you know, tell me more about if we were sitting in our first session, right? So I'm going to
Hmm.
turn the table here and I get to ask you some questions, Donna.
All right.
How would you counsel me for scaling a sales team in a highly regulated industry? How would you coach me? And in some case, is there a case study that you find particularly instructive? What is your thought process and your methodology around that? Because I think I can learn from that, and we're going to do some of that, of course. But I think your listeners can really learn from that too. And then I have one more follow-on question.
Sure. Very good. So, from a sales team's perspective, right, a lot of it is sales is a combination of art and science.
Hmm?
And really, my belief is that you have to have a passion for doing that kind of work. So you've got to balance. My opinion is you've got to balance the drive uh, along with what the expectations, and you want to call it KPIs, key performance indicators, what are the
Sure.
outcomes you're looking for? I truly believe it requires a specific kind of skill set. Now, can everybody learn to be a salesperson? 100%. Um, I believe, you know, if you ask somebody when they think of a like, let's just say a car salesman,
Mhm.
when they think about a car salesman, what do they think of?
Slimy,
Slimy, what else?
pushy.
Pushy, what else?
Um, they just want the sale. They want the commission, right?
Right.
They don't care about you. And obviously, the problem with car sales and Zig Ziglar. By the way, I started my career through sales, right? Sales leadership and
Mhm.
multi-billion-dollar companies. So this is my sweet spot and my passion. Um, Zig Ziglar always says in his, I'm going to age myself, Donna. Please don't judge. Um, in his tapes, listen to these tapes.
Yeah, yeah.
They always started with, the car salesman should always say, "Well, Donna, I love that Buick. That is such a beautiful Buick that you drove in on. Tell me about it. Tell me what you love about it." Versus in today's world, are you buying this for yourself or your spouse? Who's the decision maker? And in the first five questions, they've already qualified you. And then they play the game of like, oh, let me talk to my sales manager, sit here. And they're
Mhm.
literally going in the back room and sipping a cup of coffee versus being integrated and engaged. And I'm totally get that. No, you and I are on the same page there. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So really, we when we think of sales, right? So we have these negative connotations about that particular type of salesperson, right? We've already got the expectation, and our approach, and one, I have another opinion that you have to believe in what you're selling,
Mhm.
right? But it's not about selling. We believe in selling is about helping people professionally buy. Most people make buying decisions based on emotion
Mhm.
versus logic. And sometimes they sometimes have buyer's remorse. But if you can get to that emotion, right? What's the emotion? What's the driver? Play dumb, dig deep. And I mean that with love, right? Because you want to drive it, you've got to drive that out of them, especially if it's an emotional decision. So there's the art to it of how to do that, but then there's also being able to execute, right?
Mhm.
And it's one to be that kind of person, but then not being able to get the results that you're looking for. So you're looking for the results at the end of the day. Now, what you just said was, I'm in a regulated industry, so there
Mhm.
there are rules that govern that. So you have to play within those rules. But I would look for what do you have to live by? What are those rules that you have to live by? What kind of person do you have in that role, and are they passionate about what they do? Can they execute, and can they get to the root, and can they help at the end of the day help people professionally buy? It requires certain attributes. Some people have it, some people don't. Some people really have to work hard at it. Some have a really natural ability about it. But
Right.
I don't know if that helps answer your question. But then
It,
if you're scaling, right, you've got to get more of those kinds of people. And you have to put systems in place that can help you scale without adding additional people.
all
But
I have to say, Donna, is where have you been hiding my whole life? Because just that element of just those golden nuggets of information, had I known that 20 years ago, it would have saved me a lot of effort. We should talk about that offline at some point.
you bet.
My maturation curve as I went along that continuum in sales leadership and what I learned, and some of it was painful, some of it wasn't, and but you nailed it, the nail on the head. It is an art and a science, and understanding when you're in one mode or the other is important. Donna, my last question for you is, you have a unique vantage point where you get to talk to a lot of leaders across multiple industries. What trends are you seeing, um, from your vantage point in industry, and what are the two, three takeaways that I can walk away from this conversation being like, I need to think about this. And more importantly, your thousands and thousands of listeners can walk away at the end of this conversation like, yes, I can implement this, or I can start thinking about that, and hopefully it generates a conversation with you or other people, right?
You bet. Great question. So from a trend perspective, and I'm gonna say this isn't even well, this is a trend, but it's been a trend forever, is time, right? We have a course called Time Rich, but it's time management course. But one of the things that we say when we teach this course is there's no such thing as time management because there's 24 hours in the day, 7 days a week, 365 days in a year, and it doesn't stop. All you can do is self-manage. So where are you spending your time? And what we find often with business owners and executives is they're chasing their tail. And you mentioned high about burnout. I was in a situation with my team while I ran them ragged. What's no different with business owners, right? And now it becomes even more complicated because now we've got AI into the mix. Well, what's AI? And do I embrace it? Do I ignore it? So and we got tariffs, issues with tariffs right now. Do I buy a lot of stuff right now or do I not, right? And so there's this, we create this scarcity mindset around that piece. So calm down. So I'm going to go on tariffs, calm down. But time management, one of the things that we say right away is you can improve your productivity tomorrow. If you just by doing one simple thing is write down what you want to accomplish tomorrow. What are
Mhm.
those three things that you want to do? And that creates automatic focus for you. And it may not be perfect, right? We have good days and bad days, but you can improve your time right then and there, where you're spending your time, and then having focus. Where do you want to focus as a business owner? The other thing is recruitment and retention.
Yep.
Hiring the wrong people. We hire too quickly. If we would just take our time and slow down and figure out who we really need, right? And let's not just get a bunch of candidates saying, "Oh, you know what, you got a heartbeat, right? Come on in,
Yeah.
right? We'll take you." So because there's again a scarcity that we can't find the right people. So what we teach folks is how to recruit the right folks. One, it's recruitment. Second is retention. And that's where I think you said you've done a really, really good job is having a passion for your folks and a culture, creating a culture where they're not going to want to go down the street and make a buck or two or five an hour more. What is the whole picture? And so you
Mhm.
you know you attract them, but then you work on retaining them, and that is investing in them, right? You really care about them, and especially now we have 5 generations that are employed.
That's right.
Right. We
That's right.
got we got alpha, and they're already now talking about beta, and then we saw the baby boomers. I'm a Gen Xer. We're all different. So how do we all balance, right? Well, that requires let's come together. We're going to talk differently. We're going to react to things differently. But how do we make it the best? And that's through conversations, communication. We do a lot of one of the big things that we do right out of the gate with some clients that are have a somewhat of a decent sized headcount as we do disc profiling and
Oh yeah.
communication style profiling. Like let's because I've heard so much about we can't get along. We have conflict. Well, is it conflict or is it communication?
Mhm.
Right. So let's talk about communication styles first because we're all wired differently. So I'll go back to that time, recruitment, retention, and then of course profitability. Right. We are in the most organizations are in the business to make a profit. And
Make
so,
money.
really, right? And really, it's about how do we, at the end of the day, we don't, what is it? What is the phrase? Um, Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash
That's
is
right.
king, right?
That's
So
just
we
king.
are in the business for making a profit. So we have to do that responsibly. And we do want to make sure we bring dollars to the bottom line. So I hope I answered your
Oh,
question
well,
in
that's
some
a
way, shape, or
beautiful,
how.
beautiful response, and I got a lot out of it. But I'm gonna harp on one little topic.
You bet.
I aged myself by telling you I listened to audio tapes once in my career, and you kind of put your foot in your mouth too by saying you write everything down.
It's exactly right. I write everything down to this
I do
day.
the same thing. I do the same thing. I just can't, for the life of me, as technology forward as I am, I just can't go 100% paperless and just can't give up my notebook, right? It's just something about the notebook and it's just so powerful.
And mentally and psychologically, and there's actually a science behind that. There's something to be said that if you physically write something down on paper, and if you have an electronic device and you physically write it still, it's something that's in your mind that helps you with retention
That's right. That's right.
versus if I type it in a computer, I'm not going to have the retention that I would if I'm physically writing. And something is going on between the brain and your pen that
Yep.
is transforming it and helping you with retention. So I would say write it down all day long because I do all day long.
It's okay to age ourselves.
It
Well,
is. I'm not going to say my age, but I'm up
same
there.
here.
All right, fantastic. Well, I appreciate the questions. And for our audience, that was not planned, so I had to
Was
fly out the seat of my pants.
That's pretty good. That was pretty good.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to continuing the conversation, Donna. I really do. And thank you so much for um, allowing me to, talk a little bit about my journey and being a host on your wonderful podcast.
This has been great. And hey, thank you for sharing your story. I know that our audience, they're really going to find value in this. And I know I have found a lot of value in this as well. This is a Business Spotlight series with Donna Kapmeyer from Action Coach at Coastal Bend and Hi Leva from Propel Financial Services. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you can continue to see our great content. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today,
you.
and bye for now.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.